Welcome to the Write Good Books podcast, the audio companion to WriteGoodBooks.com, with your host Jason Bougger.
And we're back for another episode of the podcast. I'm Jason, and I'm joined again by our co-host Scott Michael Childers. Are you doing good today?
I am doing very well, thank you.
Good deal. I'm doing okay as well. We missed last week due to my weird schedule. So, listeners, I apologize. We're back on a schedule for good.
Or bad, if you don't like us. We're still going on a schedule.
Yeah, and we're motivated to record because today we're going to talk about being motivated to write and staying motivated. I think that's a bigger problem, isn't it? We're always motivated to write. I wake up, I'm going to finish my book today. I'm on page 3, but I got my positive attitude to push me through.
Some days.
Does a positive attitude work or does it not? I think that's what we'll start with. Is a positive attitude enough to keep you going?
That's a really good question. So, should we start with getting that positive attitude?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we get the positive attitude to write? I guess with me, I kind of look at why I wanted to write in the first place. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm moderately above average. I don't know if I would say I'm good at it. We're always learning and striving for perfection. You know, if you're good at it, if you love it. Some people write for fortune and fame. Best of luck to them.
Yeah, I'd like to write for those magazines as well.
Is there a fame magazine? I like Fortune. I read it sometimes.
That one's getting cut.
Yeah. And I don't know. What keeps you writing?
For me, it's that feeling you get when you can take an image out of your head and put it onto paper using words. And just the power of that, it's just, for me, I find it addictive.
It's great your thoughts are going onto a page and then they're becoming somebody else's thoughts.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is they're creating thoughts based on what you wrote.
That's some Inception level stuff right there.
Yeah, that's a little too metaphysical for me.
But no, it's just the idea, and even the challenge of how do I describe what I want to pass on. That's just for me, that is what draws me in, and that's what motivates me to do writing. It's,
just motivation to create.
Yeah, it's that creative instinct. So. What
about when you lose motivation?
Oh, well, yeah, there's another thing, though. As fast as it can come, it can go away, especially if you hit a roadblock. Or, like you were saying, you get up, I'm going to write, and I'm going to do this, and then the feet hit the floor, and on the way, the feet land in a hairball.
Yeah.
Right? Life happens along the way.
And you might say, I'm going to write this book. I'm only on page 3, but I'm going to get it done. All of a sudden becomes, I'm going to write this book. I'm only on page 3.
Yeah.
And then you're done. So many things can get in the way of motivation. I'll read, I'll listen to audiobooks in the car by, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, etc., and I'll be so on fire. And then what happens? Once you try to apply that stuff that motivated you, it's not as easy as they make it seem. It takes a lot more internal effort than you expect.
I think that leads to, we should probably spend a little bit of time talking about motivation versus just dreaming.
Yes.
Right? Because we get up and we have this wonderful idea, and like you were saying, you hear these speakers talk about the power of positive thinking and envisioning and all of that wonderful stuff. But at that point, it's still a dream. It's a wish.
Yeah.
We haven't taken a true internalization of that to make it motivation.
It's almost like you're getting the feelings you would get at the end of the project without actually getting to the end of the project.
Yeah. And I think at this point, we should probably say that this isn't just us coming up with this. There's a researcher, Gabriel Oettingen, wrote a book, Rethinking Positive Thinking Inside the New Science of Motivation. This is something that I've been looking at for a while. But we can take it to any type of motivation. We can take it to New Year's resolutions, or all the people who are going to diet, right? They're going to lose some weight, and they're going to get on a diet plan and an exercise plan, and they have all these great thoughts, and even the reasons they're doing it are great and honorable and favorable and whatever word you want to use. But when, like you were saying, you think too positive about it, it feels like the job's already done.
Yeah.
So the motivation isn't there. You're just dreaming. You're just wishing.
Yeah. I see my finished novel, but I kind of forgot the step of finishing it. I bought the gym clothes. I forgot to go to the gym.
Yeah. And so that's one thing when we're working on these type of things. Having a positive outlook is fabulous. I don't want to knock that. But we have to look inside and say, okay, how do I get there? That's my goal. That's my wish. That's my dream. And that's a good thing. But we need to take that next step to turn it into true internal motivation and action.
Yes. And how do we do that?
Well, I think the next step, right? You defined it, and you take a reality check.
Yeah.
It's like, that's my wish. But the reality check isn't what's going on outside. You look at what your usual reactions are.
Right. What you're capable of.
Right. And again, if you go look at that book that we mentioned earlier, you'll read similar things. So it's not just us making this up. But you've got to look at, I want to be the next Michael Jordan. However, I'm a 5'6", 45-year-old overweight guy who hasn't played basketball since he graduated from high school. Okay, that's one reality check. But a closer thing would be, hey, I'm going to write a great novel. Internally, it's when I write, I'm easily distracted by the next thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's something I know about me. The next idea sometimes distracts me. So I've got my wish. I've identified something inside me that will block me from gathering that. What's next?
What's next? For me, it's more like I'll set the goal. I'll look at, is this possible at this point in my life? I, too, would be unable to be the next Michael Jordan, or Michael Jackson for that matter. But I'll look at, is finishing a book this year a realistic goal? So let's say that's 100,000 words divided by 9 months. That's
a little over 11,000 a month.
Okay, 11,000 a month, which is
a little over 360 a day.
Okay, 360 words a day. Can you do that? Most people would say yes. Well, I'd say, yeah, that's no problem. I'll do a blog post a day that's 1,100 words. Well, okay, doing a blog post of 1,100 words versus 360 words of a novel where you have to remember what happened and look forward to what is going to happen might not be as easy as it sounds. How realistic is that? And if it's not realistic, you need to rethink it. Otherwise, you instantly lose motivation. This is why NaNoWriMo, you may be really successful with NaNoWriMo or you may fail pretty quick.
So what you're saying is that positive feeling is great. However, you need a dose of reality.
Yeah, hit that dose of reality. And for me, if I break down the goal and see that I can hit each step, every time I hit that step, the motivation returns.
Okay. Well, I think that brings out another thing, is having a plan.
Yes.
Right? So you've gotten through all that critical thinking of that big wish, and you come up with a plan. And we're at this point, we're not talking the day-to-day motivation. That's kind of
that's true.
That's kind of another topic. This is kind of that big project motivation.
Yeah.
But still, it's having that. I've got the initial energy. I took a little bit of time. I've come up with a plan that accounts for that.
Yeah.
And so it turns into more of a long term.
And I think if you have a plan that you can't do, you're only setting up to lose motivation. That might hurt other aspects of your life. I had a huge goal, or not goal, I had a huge dream project involving YouTube, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I was on fire. I couldn't sleep at night. I was so excited thinking about it. I can't wait to get this started. I started it a little bit and realized, no, at this point in my life, I can't do something like this. And I don't want to get into what that project was because you'll all laugh at me. But I 4 little kids, yada, yada. This is something that will have to wait.
Yeah.
And I know that if I would have tried to go through with that project, I would have not reached any of my short-term goals. I would have done nothing but felt discouraged and that would have hurt my other writing. It would have probably hurt my day job, hurt everything else, made me cranky, probably cost me my marriage and my family at some point. Maybe that's a bit extreme.
Yeah, just a bit.
But so, yeah, don't be afraid to step back. And sometimes your motivation might not be realistic. I guess that was what that whole long story was leading up to me saying.
You know, and that kind of ties into something that's, I don't know if you've heard of Seinfeld and the chain, which is usually attributed to him, I believe. You put up a big calendar, and you have one goal, or one thing per day. I can't even remember what his was, but every day you do that, you put a big mark in that calendar. And so you have this big visual thing there on your wall that you can see how many days in a row you've worked towards that project goal. And so that becomes a visual motivation for you to continue on. So you had your wish, you broke it down, you have the plan, and you've got this visual reminder each and every day to do a little something. And I think that's a big thing too, is just
seeing that X is enough of a subconscious reward. You don't need to, I'm going to buy myself a candy bar every time I reach my word count.
Yeah, just don't overdo it with the rewards.
Right.
It's like, hey, I thought about maybe possibly doing something today.
Yeah.
Reward yourself for actually accomplishing something.
Yeah.
So I'm just, it is Jerry Seinfeld, Don't Break the Chain. And of course, there's an app for that somewhere.
Okay. Something to try. You know.
So what about just the short-term motivation?
Well, what are the triggers that pull you off? You said you're easily distracted, as am I. We all have this problem. We have to write on our computers, and what do we do with our computers?
Well, not everyone, but you and I definitely are in the same boat with this. I absorb entertainment that way, right? I'm watching TV and movies and stuff, video gaming, browsing the web.
Right.
You know, the non-writing stuff.
Yeah, I've written 10 words already. Now I'm going to check Twitter, and I'll be back to finish that sentence in 35 minutes.
Yeah, or I'm going I'm going to reward myself with a game of solitaire.
Yeah.
So, and one thing to think about too is, I don't know if you've ever heard the term swallow the frog.
Oh yeah, eat that frog.
Eat the frog. You do the stuff you don't want to do. Get that out of the way.
Yeah, do the big thing first. And that, when I think that way, I'm so much more productive at the day job. But far too often I catch myself thinking, well, what's the quickest, easiest thing I could do to cross off of the list? And then the big things never get done.
Okay, Brian Tracy quoting Mark Twain.
Okay.
But I don't know if Mark Twain...
I was going to guess Brian Tracy.
Sure you were. It's attributed to Mark Twain originally.
Yeah.
So that's our rambling on motivation. I think that the key takeaway is take it from the wish and the dream and direct that energy from that excitement into something that's sustainable, right?
Yes.
If you can set a fire and burn down a forest, or you can create a fire, harness it, fuel it appropriately, and it becomes a useful tool. So take that excitement and direct it.
And keep that big picture in your head, because you'll get there.
Yeah.
And I think we got to the end of this podcast. Did you lose motivation?
No.
No. Excellent. Me neither. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Check us out on the web at writegoodbooks.com/podcast. And if you'd like to support us, we'd love to have you at our Patreon page at patreon.com/writegoodbooks. See you next time.
See ya.